This is an AMC 20 out of my 1979 Jeep CJ7 Golden Eagle. We're going to tear into this thing to do some maintenance as well as a couple of upgrades. This is going to be a great opportunity to service these rear drum brakes. Once I get into it, I'll replace any parts that are needed internally, as well as definitely planning on replacing both wheel cylinders and this hard line. In addition to the brakes, I'm going to replace all the seals. At the end of both axle tubes, there's axle bearing seals, as well as the pinion. There's a pinion seal. The current pinion seal doesn't seem to be leaking, but this is the right time to replace that. I also seem to have a leak because there's a lot of oil right at the bottom of the diff cover. So I think the seal of the diff cover is not doing its job, so that's going to get resealed as well. This two-piece axle design is probably considered the weakest link of the AMC 20. So this is going to be pulled out and replaced with a forged single-piece axle from Mosier. I'm considering an upgrade where you weld the axle tubes to the differential housing. That greatly overall increases the strength of the axle itself. However, there's some caveats. I mean, welding steel tube to cast iron is not a simple trick. There's actually a lot of preheating and actually slowing the heat down that makes that something I got to investigate more before I decide if I'm going to do it. But I'm thinking about it. And the last thing that I'd like to accomplish is getting this thing all cleaned up and painted. The cleanup process is actually pretty tedious. It's either a bunch of wire brushes and or possibly even sandblasting with I got a pot blaster. Both of those things you got to consider the debris, making sure that doesn't make it its way inside the tube. So a couple final words of thought, and that is that this is the narrow track version of the AMC, which ultimately is not the final goal for this vehicle. I'm gonna do the upgrades to this and get it put in there so I can enjoy it. But my original goal was just to do the single piece axles and go with it. But after looking at all the leaks and stuff, I got to dig deeper. And this will be a good opportunity for me to learn more about this axle and things that I'll need to do to maybe a future axle. So ultimately, I want to move up to maybe a wider axle, either a Dana 44 or, as one of my subscribers pointed out, Bob McElver, he pointed to an Ford 8.8. So I've got all those things in my notes, and we'll be looking into that in the future, and what is the right axle for my usage. But anyway, another consideration, a lot of people I see on the forums, they're putting trusses on them. I just don't think I need that kind of strength. I'm not going to do any heavy wheeling with the Jeep. So I've elected, for my purposes, I'm not going to put a truss in it. But and I want to remind you that this is not a how-to video. This is I've not ever broken into a axle before. I've read a lot about it. I understand how things should go. I'm going to open up and learn a lot. If you're enjoying the video, you should think of it as, hey, these are all the steps it would take, and what I'd like for you to pull out of it is by watching all the steps, you consider whether or not this is something you need to get some help with, or maybe something that you can do as well, or as the channel is, you can do it too. So anyway, let's start cracking some bolts. All right, we're going to start by taking off all the brakes, the drum, the components, and the lines and stuff. This is that passenger side that had all of the leakage. I'm going to show you this side because I want to see and share with you whatever we find here. So let's look at there. Okay. We got, I remember doing these brakes maybe about 20 years ago, and it doesn't have many miles on it since. But because this is so leaky, that oil is probably impregnated in these pads. I am going to change the pads for whatever that is, and I'm going to real quickly take some photos. Photos are free. Why not take photos? Alright, so again, passenger side, this also has the emergency brake cable coming in, so we're going to see that here in a minute. But let's start off by getting this stuff out of here. Okay, that's all of the basic brake parts. I'll get this cable off. We're going to end up taking the wheel cylinder out as well and the lines. We'll get to that now. Okay, so that takes that brake line off. I've got all new brake line with the rock guard that I'm going to replace all this with. All right, that's a 7/8 inch bore, 13627. I think I replaced these last time I rebuilt brakes, but I'm going to replace it again. They're so cheap to replace, so we'll get a new one of those. All right, so this is the two-piece axle. It's got the axle comes out. It's got a taper on it, and then a threaded end. This flange pushes on that taper, and then the castle nut basically jams down on it in a cotter pin. I don't think there's any reason to take that apart and try and separate the flange from the axle. I think it all comes out as one thing. Now that I've got these brake shoes off, I actually have access to the 4 bolts that hold all the dust shield and the couple seals and stuff like that. I should be able to get this off. So I'm going to take these off next. Alright, so now all this is now loose. And I don't know if I can pull that. This backing plate for the drum brake is extremely thick and strong. What I might do is get a pry bar back behind here and see if this will pop out. Really shouldn't be anything holding that. Let's see a pry bar. Oh yeah. All right, let's get this thing popped off and see what condition things are inside. Well, I certainly did not expect that. What a mess. I actually took some time out and cleaned up all the mess. But now that I'm circling back, you know, this has got an actual indention down here where the gasket sits. And when I look at this, I was actually expecting silicone, you know, all the things glued together. I had a spatula ready to kind of pry it loose, and the thing just fell off. This is like a rubber gasket, and it sits down inside that little recess. And when I inspect this, just see if there's any leaks, it's got a perfect indentation all the way around. It seemed like this was sealing right, but somehow I was getting some leaks down in here. But anyway, that's that. We're going to go back with some other type of sealant to get that on. You know, the cover looks fine. I got to just clean it all up. But now what I want to do, and my intention originally was, when I was thinking through all this, was this is as far as I'd probably take some of this down. But I was going to inspect, you know, some of the sludge, make sure there wasn't metal shavings or anything that didn't look like I needed to go further. But after thinking through it, I can't believe I'd be this far along and wouldn't at least take these bearing caps off, take this carrier out so I can inspect the carrier bearings just to look at it, make sure there's not pitting and stuff. I'm really hoping that I can just reuse what's going on here and put it back together with the shims right where they are, so I have to reset all this stuff. Just wasn't wanting to go that far. But the two things, by taking the carrier out, I can check the shims, I can clean out the tubes a lot easier, I can spray this all down, sanitize it, as well as I can set my pinion preload a lot easier with this out. So there's 3 good reasons to go ahead and at least take this thing out. So to do that, I'm going to start, we got to mark these bearing caps. We'll put a single ping pinch here and a single pin here, and then we'll put 2 dots here and 2 dots over here, so we have those. The actual cap does have the word up and an arrow pointing up, so we definitely want to get these back in the right spot, same spot. So let me get these marked up, and then we'll try and get them off. Okay, so I pulled this carrier out. I was expecting some shims. They're either on the outside of the bearings or the inside of the bearings. In this case, they're both on the outside of the bearings. You know, they use these shims, different thicknesses, and they'll, you know, thicken this one up and thin this one down to help move this carrier left and right, so it's got better engagement to that pinion gear. So that's how they adjust that. But anyway, I'm going to put these on my bench like this, and then the thing I was wanting to check is these roller bearings. Now this is the race for this side, and it's destroyed.
if you can see that, wow, it's just that bottom section. There's fatigue, but that's going to have to replace. So really these bearings, let me check the bearings, but I don't think you ever replace bearings without, or races without replacing the bearing. This bearing looks okay, but it's going to be a set. So regardless, I guess the whole thing is going to get new bearings. Look at this one. Yep, so same thing there. That's deeply pitted. That's a failure there. Interesting. That's all. These are perfect except for these just heavily pitted spots. So anyway, we're going to have to now order and get prepared to do all that. Just one more step. I'm glad actually I took them apart. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have seen that. So we'll get that replaced. And I guess I was not expecting it also to pull the pinion out, but I think I'll fully pull the pinion out and check those bearings and just completely do all this. This just got to be a bigger job than I was expecting, but that's how you learn. So I'm curious what the current preload is on this bearing, just kind of know where we're starting at. I don't think it's much. It turns very easy. I believe the book says it's supposed to be between 14 and 25 inch-pounds, but I'm going to have to re-look that up. So anyway, I just want to see what it is, and if I come, oh, it's barely reading. That looks like 2. Yeah, maybe reading 2. So there's no real preload on that. This thing operated fine. There was nothing really wrong with, never had any complaints out of the rear end, but I guess we'll fix that too. So I'm going to mark, I don't see any current marks. I'm going to mark the axle, the nut, and the thing just to kind of know where it is. Try and get some of this put back and give me at least a place that I can sneak up on. And then we'll need to tighten it a little more than that. But I'm going to put some non-permanent marks, maybe just some paint. And then I'm going to get that thing off. I've got a seal puller, but I can't find it. I've been through this shop twice. So I'm going to try this little pry bar here, and if not, I got another little pry bar that, we're just, oop, this may not even fit in there. That's jarring. Like that, did it? There we go. Might be a washer or something there. There's a bearing on this side and bearing on the other side. Should be a Hey, are you okay? Got a little close there. Sorry about that. So after looking at these bearings, they look really good. There's no pitting or damage to these roller bearings at all. As well as I checked out the races, the associated races, and they look fine too. But they're going to get replaced. Here's the crush sleeve. It gets replaced. We'll get those races. I'm going to get those hammered out of that housing. As well as I forgot to take out the seals at the far end of both of the tubes. Those just punch out with a broom handle or a piece of conduit or something like that. It's kind of a simple thing. So I'll get that taken care of as well. I'm gonna get a bunch of parts ordered, and then we'll come back and start cleaning the housing and get kind of this thing back reassembled. So this will end this part of the video, and I hope you enjoyed. If you like this type of content, please consider following along by subscribing and hitting the notification bell. And if you got any comments, would love to hear from you. Again, I always appreciate all of my followers. Great group of people. Really like the conversations that we have, and we're just all having fun. So anyway, we'll see you next time.
Jack it up.